like to welcome everybody to the Anchor Point Outdoors Hunters Podcast, where we're talking hunting. From regulations to sportsmanship, hunting gear, to even the hunting industry itself, we're going to try to cover all these topics right here on the Anchor Point Outdoors Hunters Podcast. So grab yourself a hot cup of coffee, pull up a chair, and let's get this show started. All right, welcome everybody to the Anchor Point Outdoors Hunters Podcast. We are back this week, and we're going to continue our conversation on turkey hunting, but we're going to do a little bit different this week, as we're going to talk just basically how we've hunted, our techniques. By far, none of us are professionals, but we've had pretty good success harvesting some turkeys over the years. So we're actually just going to talk our experiences and things that's worked. So hopefully maybe some of you guys could pick up on some of our techniques, some of our failures that we've had. We're going to cover everything from calling, scouting, even decoys in themselves, blind setups, and so just general turkey hunting conversation, basically. So I guess we're going to start it out. I guess, Gary, we're going to start out with you. I mean, you've been turkey hunting, like we said before, for quite a few years. But your turkey hunting's a little different than what we do anyway currently. So I guess walk through one of your seasons. I mean, really how you do it. I know you said you drive around, you did a lot of scouting, but really what do you look for and when you make your loops?
Well, you got to keep in mind, I hunt on state and federal land, and you guys mostly hunt on private property. So it's just a little different, but I ride around, I look for tracks. I look for strut marks in the ground, and, I like to you can see scratching where the turkeys have been, scratching and stuff. And I just mark them areas down, keep them in my mind, and then when my hunt comes, I go back to them areas and then I roost some areas where I've seen birds and stuff. And when I get a couple birds roosted, them's the ones I decided to hunt. And then what I do is I go out the next morning where I roosted that bird, and I set up on them, and I hopefully harvest him.
Yeah.
But it don't always work out that way.
Yeah, and you said before that one of the things you do, the main reason you do two birds, just because of the number of hunters out there. Just so you don't, you've ran into that before,
right? And if the first setup doesn't work, if there's a car there or something, somebody else is hunting that bird, and then I've got a place I can take right off to and set up, and that's what I try to do. And if I only got one place and it doesn't work out for me, then I start running and gunning.
Yeah.
And
you say that because, I mean, we have run into, even hunting around here, neighbors hunting and, calling the same birds. But, we've talked about this before that, basically be on top of people, because you don't just go set up a couple 100 yards, or you don't drive just down the road, because you're hunting those same birds.
Right.
I mean, you actually leave, because we've done that. We've actually been in situations in Kentucky where, and we've talked about this, where you're hunting the same birds. You may be within a couple 100 yards,
right?
But I mean, it really does no good to to hunt the same area. So it's best just to back out and have those two areas.
Right. That's what I say. I take off and I run and gun. I drive about a quarter mile down the road, then I'll give a locating call, like a woodpecker call or a crow call.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't hear them shot gobble, then I'll give a couple yelps. If nothing happens, I hop in my car and I go another half mile or so. Do the same thing. I just continue repeating that, and hopefully I hit a bird,
Mm-hmm.
And
you've done that. Like you said, you've actually hunted with George King. You said in the last podcast you were talking about George King and some of those guys, and how many of you really was there in there? Because we've also hit back up on that. We do deer camps, we do a lot of different things, but I mean, even though we've kind of done a turkey camp in Kentucky for a few years, a lot of people don't do that. I mean, you don't see people hunt like you hunted back in the day, where you get 4 or 5 people together.
We had about 4 or 5 people, but when we went out roosting in the evening, we would all split up. I mean, we would go 4 or 5 miles away from each other. And then after that got dark, we'd all meet. And then whoever had the best luck, with seeing the birds fly up or hearing them fly up or hearing gobbles, and then we decide, where we were going to go hunt. And that's, we worked as a team.
Yeah. And how many people? I mean, did you have just a couple people set up on that? I mean,
yeah, 2 of us.
Yeah. So you just picked out whoever roosted it or whatever, who had those 2 went and hunted it.
But we had a lot of people that didn't even have their license to hunt, just come out and help us roost.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we did it as a team, like.
Yeah. So even though they may have like the next hunt, they may have week 2,
right? And
you guys just shared that.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
So it worked out well, So like George always had hunt number 1. So me and Bob always had hunt number 3. So me and Bob would help George, and that's just the way it worked, But now it's I pretty much hunt by myself now.
Yeah. And you like you said, you have a loop that you do, and have you seen a lot of hunters on that loop? I mean,
no, I haven't, not yet, but I will.
Yeah,
they'll be
right. Not a lot of people do that scouting, and I guess that's where we're trying to get at. I mean, even we don't do a lot of scouting just because most of the stuff that we've hunted is private land. We know where that's at.
Right.
So,
yeah, it's different, but it hasn't changed much. I mean, a little bit, but there's more people, I think, that hunt private property than they do state and federal. But like I told you before, I don't even bother going and asking people anymore to hunt their property or anything, because they always say no.
Right. Well, it's just a different time. Right. I mean, you're just not getting the cooperation. People just don't want, the trust factor's just not there anymore like it used to be. I mean, you used to be able to let people come on and not have to worry about it. But
it's really changed a lot since then. But yeah, it's a little different, but it's not much. You got to put in your time. That's what I tell people. Scouting is really important.
Yeah, and and we've talked about that too. I mean, the people don't scout turkeys. Like you said, they roost turkeys. They'll go out and ride around, but are they really scouting turkeys? I mean, do they really looking for roosting turkeys, like feathers? I know back here on my property, I mean, I can go back there. I know they're roosting back there, but you can go find them. You can find feathers on the ground, find where they're scratching. But that's, you're looking for strutting marks. I mean, talking to you before.
But, Bruce, there's a lot of people now that where things have changed, these pop-up blinds. A lot of people now will find birds like in one spot, put up a pop-up line, and they'll hunt their whole hunt there.
Right.
And I've noticed a lot of that going on, which is fine. I mean, that works. But, me, I would rather just have several places to go than just count on one place.
Well, and I think that's just the way we've grown up or grown accustomed to is basically you don't want to go to state land.
Right.
I mean, state land's overpopulated, too many hunters. All you're going to do is set yourself up for failure. You're going to have those 6 days to hunt, and you're going to waste your time trying to hunt state land because you're going to be people. Somebody's not going to be a sportsman, ethical hunter like yourself and wait and see somebody sit up. And then, no, they're going to park their vehicle and they're going to get out and they're going to maybe walk 50, 60 yards down from you. And you're going to be battling for that turkey. We'll say, well, we'll see how good he calls. You know what I mean? I can just see it, because we've all done it during our deer seasons, other seasons. We just stay away from state land just because of that.
Well, it happens, and that's why I always make the point that it's important to roost, because if I look at it this way. It's a rule of thumb. If I go out roosting and my truck is parked somewhere and you come by and see my truck, that's my area. I'm roosting that bird.
Mhm.
You should continue on,
Right. But people don't do that.
But they don't always do that.
Yeah, they don't do that. I mean, all of us have had hunting experience. Kevin and I have just experienced that in the last couple of years with sportsmanship. Talking a little bit about that is sportsmanship is huge when it comes to, we've set up, Kevin and I had an experience where we set up, and next thing you know, we ended up having somebody move in on us and then basically tell us, get mad at us,
Right.
and we knew we were there. And so I'm sure, have you run into any of that in the turkey woods?
Oh yeah, I've ran into that. But I don't argue with people. I just nod my head and I go. There's a lot of state land out there. So I don't put up with it. I just leave.
Right.
And that's it. But
honestly, like the unfortunate thing about that is, like it's an animal. It's not, your property or their property. If someone wants to get upset about it, like whether it's turkey hunting, like I said, we had that issue happen with deer hunting or whatever. You'd hope they would, be sportsmen and, just be like, okay, well, I'll just let you hunt it and I'll move on or whatever. But that's kind of the unfortunate thing. It's just not worth the headache. It's an animal. You're there. I mean, I don't know. We all hunt to have fun, and we, for the experience of the hunt, obviously you want to get the trophy, but when you have a run-in with somebody and it's just not like, for me, it's just not worth the hassle. I'd rather grab my stuff and go scout a different area and find a new place so I can have more fun and not deal with people.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't always work out that way. Me and Mike went one time. I took Mike hunting, and we went running and gunning. So he knows when I say running and gunning, he knows what I mean. And we spotted this one bird strutting. He had a couple hens with him. And we went down the road and parked the car and walked way around like we should. And Mike got set up, and I got up behind him, and I did the calling. And he had the gun. And it just didn't work out for us. We didn't get the bird, but we didn't have no difficulty. You know what I mean? We had a good time. We had fun, and that's normally the way it works.
Right. And, but you guys were also, like I said, once again, you guys weren't using decoys.
Nope.
You're doing just the traditional turkey hunt. You know what I mean? Right. You're in the timber. You're not on edges of fields. You're not hunting, open areas. Basically, no, you're in the woods. You're deep in the woods. Honestly,
Oh yeah.
So yeah. It's not a guaranteed. No. It's one of those hills. Kind of tell a little bit about the story. You told me the story, but about why you didn't get the shot. It was just the terrain, correct?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I seen the turkey all the time, but Mike couldn't see it. It was just the way the terrain was and the way the turkey took.
Right. And and you guys heard it.
Yeah.
And you had to hurry up, set up. And that's, to me, that's turkey hunting. That's the running and gunning and setting up. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's all a good experience anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So, because like I said, we've been pretty fortunate, to have birds on our properties, that we've been hunted. Even, not a lot of people have that option, especially with the turkey population. Doesn't seem like they're what it was. And we talked a little bit about that, but
but like you and Mike, both of you guys hunt a lot on private property.
Correct.
So what's your experiences?
For me, I always did the third hunt. Just because we did a lot of filming, we were more into the filming of that, and to be able to have those extra days to hunt, that's why we did it. And we didn't do it, other than just having more days in the field. That was kind of, if I'm going to put my, and being in northern Michigan, you don't know what the weather is. We've hunted first season, second season, and had snow on the ground, too cold. Even what we're experiencing right now, is it's 20, 25 degrees. Yesterday it was fairly decent, and I walked outside, had an owl hooting, and they were gobbling off the roost. I mean, they were just before they flew down, they were just gobbling, went out there, and they were doing the same thing this morning. I actually took my owl call out just to see if I could locate them, because there's actually, being on private property, you're limited. It's not like, you can drive thousands of acres.
Right.
And once you see that, well, when you're limited to 10, 15 acres, 20 acres, and like I said, you're not going to get access. Most likely you're not going to get access to somebody else's property, because they say, well, if I let him turkey hunt, then he's going to be over here hunting or whatever.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Why don't you hunt on state and federal land?
Just like I said, I think that if I only get 4 or 5 days and I have birds here that I can hunt, I'm probably going to put the time in to draw them here or try to focus on here. If I didn't, then I've actually tried to go out. But state land, once again, when I was younger, my dad hunted state land. But most of my childhood I grew up hunting private land. Up till the time I was about 14, we lived basically in where we had no property. We had to hunt state land.
Right.
Well, then you grow up, and Kevin's that way, Mike's that way. I mean, you've had private property. You really haven't had to go anywhere to hunt. I mean, we've been lucky enough to have deer, turkey on our properties, but not having experience, really not having anybody to say, yeah, let's go do this. Let's take this,
right,
and do that part of it. And then it's, I feel,
okay.
Yeah. Well, I just don't think that people do that anymore.
But there is a lot of people that still does it.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't know them. I don't. Other than you, I don't know of anybody that does it. I just don't. Everybody that I know hunts private property.
Right.
I mean, they don't, and they know where the birds are. I mean, so it is a lost art of roosting turkeys, the way most people hunted them.
Right.
Because there wasn't turkeys on everybody's property.
Let me ask you a question.
You started.
You went with me yesterday.
Yeah.
How do you feel that went as far as seeing what I told you we wanted to see? I mean, how much sign did we actually see?
I've actually seen quite a bit, considering we just run the roads.
Right.
Just driving the roads and them having come out to the roads and seeing the tracks, seeing the strutting marks, in areas that, even you thought, because of the logging, and we talked about that, looking at the habitat. So if you're riding around, what I took out of it is, yeah, you've seen where they were roosted, where you've seen the activity, and you also seen where the woods were at, where you actually seen the sign. If you paid attention to where you were at, what type of timber, from the pines to the hardwoods, and actually it was kind of mixed.
Right.
But if you paid attention to where that sign was at, you kind of give you. But once again, that's not something that I did.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. But no, I mean, I think there was a lot of sign. It's just different, So taking that sign and going out there, and the next step would be, okay, yeah, you're going to have to go out and find out where they're at.
Right, roost them.
Yeah, you're going to have to find out. Yeah, you've seen them in this block, but they could be clear over here.
But that's the fun part about turkey hunting. You have all them stages that you go through.
Right, like I said, I think that's a lost art, not a wasted art, a lost art of people learning how to turkey hunt.
Right.
Because they've made it too simple for 90% of the people right now to harvest a turkey. It's just an art that's not. Yeah, you're just patterning them.
Right.
Yeah, you're patterning them instead of actually hunting them.
Yep.
It's kind of like, it's not a deer hunting podcast, but it's the same thing you do with a big buck. You don't you look for sign. You look for that picture, or you're looking for sign of a big buck. So turkey's the same way. You looking where they're scratching, where they're feeding. You're looking in the oaks if you're looking for deer sign. You're looking same thing with turkeys. You're looking if they're scratching, they're getting acorns,
Right.
where they're actually. That's all sign that most people do not do. I mean, so if you took your area that we just drove around, we seen that bird where it was strutting in the road, seen the hen tracks, seen the tom tracks. How would you do that? How would you go back? Now, would you go back and scout that wooded area, or just try to roost them?
I would go back. I continue scouting until my hunt, and then about 4 days before my hunt, I'll think about, all right, where's the best spots where I've seen turkeys or seen sign. I'll pick them spots out, and them's the spots I'll roost. And then, like I say, I always try to have 2 spots that I roost, and that's just the way I do it. But
well, I know that's just not the way all of us have done it.
No.
Like I said, all of us will deer hunt that way. We will look for sign, we will look for rubs, we will look for scrapes. But when it comes to turkeys, we're like, yeah, I seen a couple over there. We'll drive by there and see if they're still there. Or like with me, I'll just keep an eye on it. My hunt starts here in a couple weeks. I'm going to keep an eye on those birds, find out if they're still roosting around here, and then I'll make a game plan of where I want to set up and try to call them onto my property. But other than that, I mean, like I said, learning experience for me, because I've never done it.
Right.
Nobody's ever taught me how to do anything other than hunt that way. Mike, you've hunted that way. I mean,
I'm kind of a lazy hunter. I mean, I've cellular cameras are huge, and that's pretty much what I pay attention to my cameras, and I'll see turkeys, I'll see tracks and the trail and stuff, and just give them a couple calls, and it's the easiest way for me. And like I said, I agree with you guys. It's kind of a lost art in the whole process of that, but I think the generations coming up in hunting, it's a lot easier just to kind of sit in your butt and wait.
Right. But like you said, the technology's made it. If you did it and you were unsuccessful, you'd quit. You would stop.
Most people, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they would, if you had the cameras and the turkeys are there, if you had all that technology and you're successful, that's why you continue to do it.
Yep.
And the same way with you, even though you have the property, you have the cell cameras like we all do, you still continue to go back to how you did it.
That's right. Yeah.
Because that's what you know. That's what you were taught. It's successful. To the rest of us, that's not how we were.
That's hunting.
Right. Like I said, it's a lost art in turkey hunting. People do not do that. I mean, at least up here. I'm not saying that not everybody does that, but I'm going to say majority of people hunt like that now. I mean, it's just because of permission and the perception, even though we didn't run into anybody.
Right.
And it's still early, but we didn't run into anybody, but the perception is there. If you're going to go to state land, you got a good possibility that you're going to run into somebody and your hunt's going to be ruined.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh yeah. No doubt.
I mean, Mike and I have hunted several times and never had nobody run up on us. If our hunt was ruined, is it because
of us?
Yeah, we did it. I mean, we have nobody to blame but me, probably.
Right. Yeah, I'll blame you.
Yeah, right. But no, I think that's why I guess I'm more intrigued on how you hunt, because I would like to do that. I'd like to be able to do that, to say that, yeah, I went back there because that's how my dad would do it, back in the day, because we didn't have it. My dad didn't turkey hunt. My dad didn't. He was the classic deer hunter. It was rifle season. He would bow hunt a little bit, but really wasn't his gig either. It was the traditional deer camp, everybody get together. And we talked about that too. If anybody would actually turkey hunt, call it, get them to respond, come in, that's what hooked me. And I don't know. That's what I love about it.
Well,
I don't even
it's
like I
all
said,
changed. I mean, you know, deer hunting. Years ago, when I deer hunted, way back, we used to find a tree, sit under the tree, put some logs around it, and there's, that's where we deer hunted from.
Mhm.
Well, times have changed now.
Right.
I haven't sat under a tree in I don't know how long, but
Now we put a blind up and put trees around it.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. But you know what I'm saying? That turkey hunting did the same thing.
Right.
I mean,
But once again, that's what we're talking about. Turkey. I mean, so what do you do turkey hunting? You locate them. You find where they're in there. You go set up behind a tree.
Yep.
And you call.
Yep.
I mean, that's most hunting was like that, back in the day. But turkey hunting, that is still.
there's still a lot of people that do that for
Yeah.
turkey hunting. There really is. But I would say there's more people that use pop-up blinds and cameras and stuff like that. But
Right, because it's easy and it's,
right.
It's just easier. I think it just, if everybody hunted, people are not going to hunt the way you hunt. They're not going to put that time in. I just don't feel it. I just don't see it. I mean, I can go to work tomorrow and I can count on one hand how many people are going to turkey hunt this year out of the whole plant.
Yeah.
And every one of them's hunting the way I'm hunting. Not one person is driving the back roads of state land and looking for tracks. They're just not doing it. I mean,
Right.
that's why I say that. It's just because I don't know of anybody, and most people, like I said, most people I know, and that's like, they just don't do it.
Yeah.
That's why I guess it intrigues me to do it, is because if there's just not that many people doing it, and the perception of running into 10 hunters on my first week, you know what I mean,
Right.
is not going to be there, then you know what? I'm probably going to have a good time. If you do the run and gun, get on it, it's a little bit harder. I mean, when you're trying to film it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and then that's why most of us, when, at least here at Anchor Point, I mean, that's what we were doing, is trying to get a lot of it, more footage,
right. Yeah.
And I like to hunt with a bow. Hunting turkeys with a bow at run and gun is a different animal in itself. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, so we can transition to that too, because the run and gun, you're not using decoys.
No.
And once again, I think all of us have used decoys.
Right.
I use most of the time I use a decoy. I don't use a Jake anymore or a Tom, just because with my experiences, they've hung up on me, or they wouldn't want to come in. And using a bow was my primary weapon. You know what I mean? That's what I wanted to get them in there, and learn my lessons, setting them up. Oh yeah, I can shoot 20 yards. Well, I set my decoys at like 18 to 20. So I can hit them. And then they're out there 10 yards because they hang up 10, 15 yards beyond my shot. So, but I mean, you very seldom use a decoy, correct?
No, right. Run and gun. And just because it's just more stuff to carry. I mean, but in the woods, I never use a decoy hardly at all. But on the side, if I'm hunting a field, I'll use a decoy, but not very often.
Mike, I mean, what would you say the percentage of your hunts? I mean, as far as, do you use a decoy?
When you and I have hunted, we've had quite a bit of success with the decoys and stuff. And here in Michigan, I've had success with toms coming into decoys. I think it really depends on the time of year that you're hunting, because if they're hung up on a hen, you're never going to call them in to begin with. So, I think the decoys help with that too, though, because, I guess if they're with a hen, but maybe that hen's already bred.
Yeah, and you're talking, maybe you're talking the time of the day too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fair.
You talked at midday, because like I said, I've had a lot of success probably in that 10 to noon time frame as far as seeing toms. You know what I mean? You think they're in there, because I've called to them and they flew down and called, and you could hear them gobble, and they just worked their way right away from you. Another example of hunting state land and having that opportunity to move.
Exactly.
It's you're more you're not going to go around your neighbor's property,
Yeah.
get on the other side of that and call
Right.
it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least,
Yeah.
you know, we covered several 100 acres,
Right.
thousands of acres. I don't even
Yeah.
know what we
Well,
covered.
and if you remember when we were doing that yesterday, how many times I said to you, you know, I'm trying to find a road that I can split the property off with,
Mhm.
just for that reason.
Right.
Where if I have a setup, and it happens all the time, if they're all henned up and the hen decides to take them away from your calling, you know, that town's going to follow them hens.
Yeah, especially the way I call.
But no, but that happens all the time. And so
Yeah.
what I like to do is I don't want to stop on that bird, but if he's starting to go away from me, I like to think about a road that I can hop on and get in front of them birds and get set up again.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I was talking to you yesterday about all these different roads, you know, and
Mhm.
cutting pieces in half is what I try to do.
Right. And, you know, and like I said, that's a good thing you could do on state land if you're not running into a ton of people, you
Right.
know. But you're just not going to do it here. I mean, here, at least my piece of property, if it takes off, you're not going to get, you're not getting permission anywhere else.
Right.
And you're just hoping that,
Oh, it's over with.
right.
You know, your hunt's over with. I still got a bunch of hunting to do if it happens to me out in the state land.
Right.
Is my point.
Right. And, you know, and that's determining how bad do you really want to get a turkey.
Right.
Because if I wanted to, I would beat the back roads and on that state land and do it. I mean, like I said, I personally don't do it just because of just what I said. How many people are out there? Do I want to waste my time to roost a bird and then find somebody else setting up on it, or it's set up too close to a private land, you know, and they're
Right.
they're going onto that property.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just different for me. I don't know. I like turkey hunting, but I like it because I enjoy doing it. Not that I have to get a bird. I just like interacting with them and calling them, getting them to respond.
Right.
And if I can get them in, you know, like I said, if I'm shooting it or somebody else is shooting it, it doesn't matter. It's nice to get them respond. And we've had plenty of experiences doing that.
Well, let's go back just for a second to decoys. Now, is there a certain way you set them up? Like, you know, if you're going to hunt, I mean,
Yeah. You know, early on, you know, you watch everybody on the outdoor channel and stuff like that, you know, because you learn. You're trying to learn the best way, how to call, how to set decoys. You know, like I said, at one time I set my decoys at 20 yards, realizing that, okay, now I've got to set these things. And I went just the opposite, set them too close and couldn't get shot out my blind because the
Right.
window was too high.
right.
And they come right to the blind or right to the decoys. But I've done the Jakes. I've had the Tom decoys, and I've never had any success. Them see them, strut a little bit, and then they just walk off. I've just never had them. My experience taking my wife out hunting, just with Mike and I actually hunted this way, and I usually is what I shot a Jake with my bow here a couple years ago, with just like a feeding hen and a lay down hen, and I've had more success with them once they actually see them. I got to put them in an area where they're actually, when they come out, they're going to see them. Well, once they see them, they've come right in. I've got video of them just seeing that lay down hen and then just come running right up to her. And so that's what I do. I don't, I know a lot of people, and I've never had no success of putting a Jake or a Tom out and having it come in there and want to kick its butt, you know, and stomp it in. Yeah. And just, I don't know. I don't know if it's kind of like anything else. I don't know if the population's not there. They don't have to fight for them. I have no idea. I just know that most of the birds I've hunted, it's just not something that I experienced. I've actually experienced just the opposite. It's actually, you know, and you made a perfect example of that, or a comment about that here, about why they do that, what you've seen with the Jakes.
Oh yeah, I mean, Tom, it's almost like deer. You know, I mean, when a Tom sees a Jake, he wants him out of his area, so he's going to come in. But the thing is, keep in mind, Jakes will team up on a tom and actually kick him out of the group, you know.
Right.
And that happens more than what people think, you know.
Yeah. And that's what I was getting at. I mean, it's just like, so that's why, I don't know if that's been my experience, why they've shied away and they haven't really came in, but I just never had any luck, even in Kentucky when we've done it.
Yeah.
We just haven't had any luck with them. I don't know. And even the hens, the day we doubled, Mike and I doubled here a few years ago on a couple birds, and we put our decoys out. It was midday.
Yep.
It was probably at 11, 12 o'clock. We went back out and, did a little bit of calling, not even sure if that had anything to do with it. We called, and like 10 minutes later, these two toms pop out at the edge of the field and they see our decoys, but they're not coming in. They're not going to come in. They're hung up. The one's strutting, the other one's just kind of feeding around him. And finally we just, we were able to get it all on film, but they're not coming in.
No.
They're not going to come into our decoys. They're hung up, and this is our opportunity. And shot one, and then the other one decided
to stay.
Yeah. Kicked the crap out of his buddy and paid the price.
Did you call? Did you purr or something like that?
Only when we first got out there, I gave a couple calls, but it was like, 10, 15 minutes later, then they popped out. So I don't know if they heard it, and then, because they never gobbled.
Mm-hmm.
But they did come out at the end of the field, and they did see our decoys, but they would, I don't know, 50 yards, 60 yards probably.
About 50, 60.
Well, a purr is a perfect call for 50 or 60 yards when a tom hangs up. A feeding purr is what it is. Nice, soft purr, then a putt behind it. Purr, but, just real nice and soft. Don't do it hard. Don't do a fighting purr. You know what I mean?
I don't even know if I know what a fighting purr is.
But, do a real nice, well, I showed you how to do that little W.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yep.
That's a feeding purr, nice and soft and easy with a little putt. And sometimes 50, 60 yards, they'll come right in.
Yeah, and I've had, when I said it, I think in the last podcast, I think I talked about, you yelp a little bit, but then I do that purr, and I think that's called in more birds for me than anything else. It's just getting them in there when I know that I could hear them coming in my direction. You know what I mean? You just keep, let them get that view of where you're at, direction where you're at. Like I said, we've had pretty good luck with it. Like I said, not all of them have turned out with a bird. I mean, either couldn't get a shot or
don't always work out.
No, and that was another thing with the blind is you're limited. You're limited how you're set up, running the cameras and
well, that's why I was wondering if there was a certain way you set your decoys. I don't know that much about it, so I mean, I don't.
I honestly set them just a few feet apart, just out in front of me. I guess there was one technique. Even you said something about it when I was doing it. I think me and Mike set up one time, and it rained all morning. We didn't go out because it was pouring down rain. And then we got out there, and we had just set the decoys up, and two toms come just busting through there. I mean, it was still sprinkling, I think, a little bit. You could hear the rain going through the leaves, but we just set those up, and they just come busting through there. Like I said, what we did wrong, looking back at it, is where they were coming from. Where the blind was at was between us and the birds. So when they looked at the decoys, they were looking right at us. So that was a lesson learned.
Right.
That even though they seen the hens, we weren't in no position to take a shot or or we weren't even set up. I don't think at the time.
No.
I think we were just getting into the blind. We just set the decoys out, but of course, as soon as they come in, they're looking at the blind, us moving around, and they were already heads up looking around.
Game's over. Yeah.
Right. So, I don't think Kevin's gonna. I think you're coming up for the third season, correct? Are you going to try to get up here for the third season? Yeah, I mean that's in May. I don't know. I think you guys both have the third season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
do.
So yeah, hopefully we'll keep a few of these birds around. You been seeing anything over around your place or?
I actually think I have a bearded hen
Oh,
hanging
really?
around, so kind of excited about that.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's a trophy in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had a couple opportunities years ago. Had a buddy of mine let me set up on his place, and it was like I said, I was bow hunting, and it was across from his house, and I was new to turkey hunting, and I knew they were coming through there. It wasn't, my calling wasn't really that good, but so I just got to transition through there, and she come walking through there, had about a 6-inch beard, and sailed one right over. I was nervous. I was like,
so Kevin, when you come during the third hunt, get a hold of me and maybe I can take you out and show you how to do the wasted hunt.
yeah.
Oh,
that wasn't what I meant, but yeah, he locked up. I don't know. He went with his hens. He just wouldn't.
Right.
And then that's, like I said, that's kind of the problem with hunting private land or hunting this private land is you're just not going to get access anywhere, and there's no place to get around. So,
Right.
and I don't really see a lot of people turkey hunting around here, honestly. So yeah, hopefully we'll do a better job this year than last year trying to get on a bird.
Yeah.
So maybe you and Gary can ride around and waste some time. But no, I kind of am more intrigued on that just because of I'm more in for the experience. You know what I mean?
Right.
If I get the bird, I don't care. But if you can learn a little bit more about turkey habit, I mean, bow hunting, that's why I like bow hunting. Spend more time in the field. I'll probably learn more about deer, turkeys, just sitting there in that tree, watching wildlife, and how they feed, how they come through. Because I've seen a ton of turkeys in the fall.
Yeah.
But so anyway, yeah, that's
it's different.
yeah, I just think we've had a lot of different.
It'd be interesting to see because, like I said, obviously there's a lot more time for that to do things Gary's way. But like I said, when you're on private land, like I said, I came up for the weekend to hopefully call on turkey or get on some birds, and we had them responded to us, and then all of a sudden they just were going the opposite way and let them go. More opportunity. Like you might have you have to put more time in beforehand, but the success rate might be a lot higher.
Yeah.
There's more area to hunt, and this is a different style of hunting. Not trying to call them into one specific spot.
Well, and you got to know that area,
Right.
We got like I said, technology now with the Onyx maps and stuff. You can really get. I mean, if you wanted to look for if it was close to private and you wanted to try to get that permission, you might be able to do that. But if the woods that they're at, like you said, it might be better for you to come in from a different way,
right,
and try to call them away from kind of where you've seen the sign, kind of, depending if it's if they're going to be heading that way.
Yeah. Well, like when me and Mike went, that Tom was on private property.
Yep.
And the other side of the road was all state, was pines. And, of course, that's where we set up. But, yeah, we called him from, private to state. He crossed the road and come in and, but, and I've always told you, if I see turkeys at somebody's house, I mark them birds.
Right.
And then I look at my plat book and see if there's some state land around close to that private, because I know that, you pretty much can call them off that private property.
Right. Yeah,
but,
if they're hot, I mean, yeah, those
so
time of the day too. I mean,
yeah.
Well, once again, if you roost a bird, and let's say somebody's on that bird. Let's say you go in there, you roost a couple birds, you go in there, and there's tons of people in there. Would you try to go back in there midday? I guess just for everybody that's out there, we talk about just setting up in the morning, but would you go back?
If when I roost a bird and I set up in the morning, if I hunt him and he's all henned up and he turns around and just walks away like Kevin is saying, that normally that means they're henned up. They're not coming in. The hen takes them away. I always make a point to come back to that area again in the afternoon and locate call first, and then give a couple yelps.
So they think they'll circle back around, or they just stay in that core area?
Well, what happens is he, nature now I'm talking, he's with them hens. He breeds all the hens, and them hens leave him right away, and they go nest. Well, here he is left alone. He looks around, and he's got no more hens. He wants hens.
Right.
So he's liable to come back to that same area where he was roosting. And I've had that happen before. And so I always make a point, if it doesn't work out, if I don't bump them or something, they just leave naturally, I'll come back to that area again. And it's worked out for me.
Right. And I guess, once again, that's hunting turkeys. Yep.
Right.
And that's what we're talking about. I mean, and for everybody out there that, hunts like Mike, I, and Kevin have for years, it's the art of hunting them has changed. You know what I mean? So I guess that's why it intrigues me when you tell me how you've done it, is you can hunt them like we hunt deer.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most people don't do it. I mean, they'll go out in the morning. Yep. By 8 o'clock, they flew down. They went, oh, yep, we're headed for breakfast. We're headed, we're going to go get breakfast, and we'll see what happens.
Right.
Maybe we'll go out, maybe we don't. You could actually, well, let's go over here. We know they're going to head, they flew down. They're over here. They're on the backside of this state land or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing. And I think I've done this with you before, or maybe it was with George, but if you set up on a bird, on Tom, and he hangs up and won't come in, if I'm with another hunter, I like to have the other hunter yelp too, and I like to yelp. I try that first. And if that don't work, what I like to do is get the gobble tube out, and I'll yelp, and right after I yelp, I'll give a gobble. It's almost like if you grunt at a nice buck, you're what you're doing is you're wanting him to come back to you. Same way with the tom turkey. If he's the boss and he hears that gobble, he wants to come in and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Why is that other tom in my area? See what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Little techniques like that. Keep that in your mind when the tom hangs up.
Yeah. And I've tried different calls, because I always carry the slate and a couple mouth calls, different tones.
Right. Yep.
Just to, if I'm out there calling in the morning, I don't hear something, but I can hear him gobbling. I'm going to change up and use a slate, change the mouth call, just to try to get, so,
right.
And even around here, I may not, if I hunt today and go out, I may not use the same call tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm going to try to keep that tone different, because I do have a few calls. I try to just mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I guess there's one way I've never done it. It's just not conducive to where I'm hunting here, open areas. But the reaping of the turkey, using the fan and going after them, you see a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd probably get my butt shot probably if
I would like
went out there with a
like
turkey
to
fan.
see that done.
Me get shot?
No,
Is that from the waste?
I'd like to see that kind of hunting done.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it on television. I want to see it really done. I
Right.
want to see somebody do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I just don't have the area. I don't think you could do it where, you know, they'd be out in the field strutting where you could kind of get in between them. Or if you got an edge of a field, like about 20 yards in from the field or whatever, where you could get them in there. So I just never seen it done. I don't know of anybody that's successfully done it here in northern Michigan. You see it all the time in other areas. I just never, but I don't, you hear of enough hunting accidents. I don't need to have some joker out there thinking I'm a turkey and
right. Exactly.
have to be picking birdshot out of my back for.
But
So yeah, I didn't. So yeah, I mean, I think for most of us, turkey is just one of those things we use as a fill-in for deer or whatever. But I don't know. We've had pretty good success doing it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I look forward to turkey hunting. You know, we don't do it. Like Kevin said last week, it's not as popular as deer hunting or anything else, but it just kind of a lost profession, or, you know, turkey hunting, just like I said. And I actually looked, because last week when we were talking about turkey calling and you said something about Traverse City, and I tried looking it up just to try to figure out, well, where are the turkey calling contests for around here?
I don't think there is any anymore.
Well, that's what I mean. I think we had one in Grand Rapids. They called it, said, you know, in what is it, South Carolina is where the actually national turkey federation's from or whatever. But I tried finding how to, you know, maybe get some pointers. I mean, at my age, but if you could teach somebody or push somebody into trying to get them into turkey hunting, saying, hey, if you went over here and they have this call, you should go and check that out, you know.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know, it's one of the things that, I mean, I can sit here and tell Kevin, hey, get this mouth call, practice with it, you know, but it takes a ton of
a mouth
commitment.
Call, a mouth call takes quite a lot of practice.
Right.
You know,
and
really
you annoy a lot of people doing it.
Yeah.
So everybody around you has to have patience.
But you know,
right, Kevin?
They make so many calls now that for a younger person starting out, you know, a slate or a glass, you know, is really good, easy to learn. This Quaker Boy double button box, you ever see them?
Yeah. Yep.
It's a no-brainer. You push to the stops.
Yeah.
Good yelps. I mean, they're a nice sounding yelp.
Yeah, but to know the sequence, you know.
Well, it takes a little bit of practice, but I mean.
No, but I mean, just like grunting, can't go. I mean, turkey. There is a knack, just like you said, to you don't. What do you say? A fighting purr or whatever.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. There's different. You have to know how to call that. You can't just yelp. You know what I mean?
Yep.
No, I'm not. But I'm just saying it's easier now.
No, I know that. I try to say for everybody out there that wants to learn how to call. I mean, they've a ton of calls that make it easy, but if you could teach somebody how to use it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But it's just somebody getting out there. It's just like how many people are actually out there willing to do that? You know, it's just for somebody that doesn't have the dad or the grandpa or anybody else to hunt, but they have that passion. They see them doing it. Yeah. You know, like I said, my grandpa didn't hunt. My dad hunted. He did turkey hunt.
Right.
But I have the passion to hunt anything. I honestly do. I mean, it wouldn't matter what it was. My dad was a big squirrel hunter and deer hunter. But you like to still see that tradition being passed. And I just, like I said, we said last week, I just don't see it. I don't know.
It's leaving.
Right. And then just trying to get it back. Yeah. To get it back where you're hunting for the right reasons. You're hunting to have fun. You're hunting to pass something on and not just, it ain't about the bird. Right. It ain't about the buck. You know what I mean? It's just different. And that was one thing. I tried looking that up to see if I could see anything, and I just did not find anything in Michigan.
Yeah.
2019, I think they had, which has been what, 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That was the last one I could actually see. And if anybody out there knows of anything, you know, especially share with the podcast, you know, share with us, because,
Right.
you know, it's like I said, we're only going over what we know and what's worked for us. And I'm sure not everybody hunts the same, not everybody calls the same.
No.
You don't need to be that perfect caller to call in a bird.
No.
You know, you don't need the perfect pitch, the perfect tone. I'm living proof of that. I mean, I've called in some birds, you know, that was questionable. I mean, well, yeah, and I like to use the mouth call,
Right.
because for me, it's not about getting the bird. It's about the experience of me on honing my craft of calling, and I'm going to fail miserably, probably, you know, because the hardest part was for me to call was just like anything else. I could sit here and call in my living room or call out my yard, but you put a bird coming in, knowing they're going to respond if I'm doing it, and then then you're nerved up, you're excited.
Right.
Try to try to yelp when your adrenaline's going. You know, you're making noises that don't even sound like a turkey, you know, but you're hopefully by that time you got your slate call, but it's easier in the blind. Like I said, because you can get away with some movement, but the run and gun, I mean, you don't want to get caught moving.
No.
You know, so, I mean, that was a learning experience for me to really be able to control, you know, that bird's coming in, you know, your heart's beating, your adrenaline's going in, and you're trying to call on top of it. But, so I'm a firm believer that you don't have to be a perfect turkey caller to kill a bird. No. You know what I mean? Because I've done it. I mean, but I've used decoys. So I think once they lock in on the decoys, if I wasn't using a decoy and hunted like you, they would probably key on it more. I think if you'd have to call a little bit more to get them in range. Right. Versus once they see that, and then they're out there, you know, fanning out, and then they're working their way into the setup.
Well, you know, I got to disagree with you.
That's all right.
I just feel that when a turkey comes into a field or into the woods and sees that decoy, its first reaction is going to freeze. And you got to remember something. You're going completely against nature. You're calling that tom with a hen call and expecting that tom to come to you. Well, that isn't the way nature is. Nature is he struts and he gobbles, and the hen comes to him and gets bred. That's nature. So you're trying to reverse that. Keep that in mind. So when you fail, don't feel so bad.
Yeah.
You know, because that isn't the way nature works. So that's why I always say.
I'm just used to the way it works at my house.
But that's why I say when they come out and you see them just sitting there strutting and doing their dance, they're expecting them hens to come to him.
Right.
I've had them come completely out of strutting and dancing, turn around and walk away.
Right. And I've had more, like I said, I had more experiences with them walking away with not using the breeding hen. If they just seen, you know, that breeding hen basically for me has helped me out quite a bit.
I think it's a game changer.
Yeah. I mean, that breeding hen for me was what I had 7 jakes come in when I had a couple years ago when I shot that one with a bow. I just called and they were down at the edge of my property, and a couple of them came up, and as soon as they seen those 2 decoys, had to lay down hen and that, they come running right in. And it was my last day, and I was shot one with my bow that day. But I don't know if it was just a hen out there. I don't know if they would come in. I mean, I've just not had any good luck with feeding hens. Just a feeding hen. But that lay down hen, that breeding hen, definitely, I thought, has been what's helped me get them within bow range.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think it's a game changer. I think it helps, you know. But again, you're monkeying with nature.
Right. Well, that's what I like to do.
Yeah, I know, but
I just, I don't know. I guess I just like the experience. You know what I mean? Like I said, when we've called, and I don't know.
But you're right. A lot of people get disappointed. You know what I mean? And I try telling them, man, no, it's all right. It happens to everybody.
Yeah.
But that's the problem with our generation now, is everything is instant success, and there is no failure anymore. I mean, in schools, everybody gets a participation trophy.
Yeah.
You can't go out in the woods, hunt a deer, hunt a turkey, hunt anything with instant success. It's all in you and what you do.
Right. And we had talked about that in our last one, that specific thing, and it's just like, that's where you got to go into it's you. For me, I'm going to go back to me, is I want to learn a skill.
Exactly.
I want to be able to learn the skill. I could care less if anybody thinks I'm successful or not.
Right.
Because success to me is if I can get that deer to come in, if I can call that turkey in, if I catch that fish, whatever it is, I'm trying to, if I go out after a turkey and I shoot a turkey, I don't care if it's got a 10-inch beard, or if it's a Jake, if it's my last day. You know what I mean? If I call it in and it's going to be a good experience for me, I'm going to take it.
Right.
But we've all been in there. We've all hunted together. I mean, I don't know. I didn't introduce anybody in this podcast, but we've actually,
we forgive you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah. Well, but it's we've just hunted so much over the years. I mean, I don't think any of us have really disappointed. I mean, yeah, we all want, especially when you're out of state or something like that and you spend the money for the tag, but at the end of the day, it's hunting.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Disappointed. Think about me. Poor me.
Yeah, poor you.
I go to Kentucky year after year after year after year after year. And what do I got to put up with? He shoots a deer year after year after year. What do I get? I come home with nothing. But I'm not disappointed. I'm happy, man.
Yeah. Well, and it's not because once again, I think we go back to that. It's not, if you don't shoot a turkey.
Yeah.
I mean, how many years have we actually went down there and the birds are there? We just, once again, hunting on private property, you're limited to that. Even though there's a ton of property down there, you're still limited.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Oh,
Absolutely.
And there's been years that we tagged out.
Yep.
The one time we went out, but since then,
Nothing.
I haven't shot a bird since, and that's tough. I mean, but don't stop you from going, because it's not about, we've had a ton of opportunities,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
We've still seen birds. We just didn't connect on them, but that didn't make it any worse.
Tell us the story about the same day you and Mike rolling a couple birds.
Yeah, well, we talked about that. That was when we got out there.
Yep.
We went out in the morning. I think we had some jakes come into our setup. It was raining.
Yep.
It was pouring down rain. And then, so we decided, well, we're going to get out. We'll go back. We'll get something to eat. The rain's supposed to let up. So we went back out. I think it was
around noonish time,
11, 12 o'clock. And, the sun was starting to come out. We got back into the blind, had the decoys out, give a little bit of couple calls, 10, 15 minutes later, 2 toms stopped. I mean, those were 10 and a half inch beards.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah.
I mean, they were decent birds. And, then they worked out there. I don't know. We had it all on film, but it was, I don't know. We were watching them for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It seemed like that. I mean, maybe it wasn't. It seemed 10, 15 minutes. And it's like they kept working their way closer, but they kept going to the left. I mean, we had our decoys here, and they just didn't look like they were, and we were on top of a hill. They were kind of down a little bit, but they made it about halfway, and that one just kept hanging up, strutting, like you said, waiting for that bird to come to him. And we just like, well, they're close enough. Let's let's do it.
Right.
And rolled the first one, and then the second one looked over and seen his buddy flopping around, so he decided to go and stomp him, and then we were in Dublin, which is perfect. I mean, it was
same gun.
Yeah. We just
that's
transferred
impressive.
it over, and because because we went in it going, okay, Mike hunt was in the morning or whatever. We just kind of swap back and forth when you're trying to film and hunt. You just kind of work it out. So however it works out,
teamwork. I mean, that's.
But it wasn't. But there was a ton of birds down there that year. I mean, it just. I mean, I don't know. We were out there and we could hear them gobbling all over the place.
Yep.
I mean, but it just doesn't seem to be the same. I don't know. No. We've talked about that. If we're down there too late, if
that's what I always wondered.
Yeah, if they're already, nesting, and because we just don't. We must have hit it perfect when we were down there because they were just gobbling all over and they were all over the place.
Wow.
Yeah. But that was a good experience. I mean, like I said, we don't haven't had it. I think other than that one I shot with my bow here, I don't think I've shot another one. So yeah, I mean, where we at? We're at just over an hour, so we're a little bit longer than last week, but
that's all right.
I don't know.
It was fun.
It's fun talking about our turkey hunting, and basically we got a couple weeks and about a month, and all you guys will be headed out, and we'll see how our hunts go. Maybe we'll get out on state land.
Sounds good.
Yeah, maybe we'll get out. Maybe we can actually film some on state land. Like I said, it's. So I guess if anybody has any suggestions, comments, or whatever, definitely hit us up. Any topics or anything that you may want to hear, we're gonna try to keep it all hunting. It's the Hunters Podcast, so it's basically anything a hunter would want to know, or any of our hunting experiences is what we're going to talk about. But any topics you want to hear about, or leave us a message, comment on the podcast itself, and we will get back with you. Have any questions? But Kevin, I appreciate you coming back on. For everybody else, that was my son Kevin. Wasn't on this one, and my friends Gary Henry and Mike Hoagland. You met Paul, his dad, last week. And but like I said, we've hunted together for years, and so it's just one of those things we like to want to just talk about it. I mean, it's just kind of an off season, but we do food plots to minerals, and we've done minerals. Kevin and I have hunted some state land down in Ohio, so we've got a lot of hunting stories, hunting related topics that we're going to cover right here on the Hunters Podcast. So I guess for now we're going to sign off, and appreciate everybody stopping by and watching, and we'll see. So what do we want to cover next time? I think we want to get into some food plots probably. I mean, we got this turkey hunting, and then we got food plots coming in. So, maybe Paul want to come back on. I know he does a lot on the food plots.
Right.
So
Kevin's got a buddy that has some food plots or something, or
Hank does a little bit of that, right, Kevin? So maybe if Hank wanted to so maybe if he wanted to check in with us and and maybe give us, maybe he's got some pointers. I mean, everybody else has certain food plots that seed that they use for their areas, and not everybody uses the same. It used to be clover all the time, and we went to radishes in the fall. I mean, we plant a lot of that. So
I stayed the same.
Yeah. I just didn't want to be a smart aleck, I guess. But no, like I said, we appreciate everybody stopping by, and I guess we're going to sign off.
Sounds good.
We'll see you on the next one.
You bet.
Once again, I'd like to thank everybody tuning into this week's episode of the Anchor Point Outdoors Hunters Podcast. From all of us here at Anchor Point Outdoors, we hope you have a great week.